Hey folks, how's it going? So today we're going to talk Inquiry Project because it's coming up fast. We only actually have less than 3 weeks now of classes left before the end of the year. Earlier today I sent out the final Social Studies English assignments, and so that means it's time to talk about the final project. And the reason we're starting to get back into it now is that the final piece is going to be pretty significant. Not maybe as big as it would have been if we were all together in classes, but it is a complex piece and you're going to have lots of questions, and I want to make sure that you guys have time to ask those questions before it all is said and done. In any case, let's take a look here. Hop on over. So you guys, a few months ago now, it seems both a long time ago and very recently, got all of these documents from me about the inquiry assignment that we're going to be working on and have been working on over the last little while here. So the first piece of the things that you need to take care of was to choose a topic, and some of you did that very quickly and others are still working on it. But now, as I kind of hinted last week, we're to the point where we really need to have this topic nailed down, and hopefully you've already started to do some reading and some research on this for two reasons. One, you need to refine your topic into a claim statement, which we'll talk about in a second here, but then also you need to have like concrete information to share with all of us. Sorry, I think my music is a little too loud here. Turn that down. All right. Yeah, you actually have to. One of the things that you're graded on for this assignment is the information you provide, because I need to be able to see the research that you've conducted, because you're going to get graded on not the side that you take, because you're not really taking a side on this, but in your diversity of research. You need to have different sources. So for instance, everything can't be from one website, and definitely not from Wikipedia, although that is an okay starting point. So let's kind of go through these stages here, because I had said way back when classes were originally moved to being remote that you needed to be through the first 4 stages of the inquiry project here. If you're not yet, that's okay, you still have time, but I figured I better put this out now so that in case anybody has been putting it off, this is a bit of a kick in the right direction here. So if your topic had been, for instance, human rights, and in fact, let me change it to one that's maybe easier for me to talk about, and maybe Carson, this one's for you because I know you're into the military history as well. Let's say that your topic is World War II. Now, World War II is a topic that is way too big for this assignment, because at the end of it, you're going to do, the plan was that we would all have our stations in various classrooms, and you would present like at a science day or a science fair type of atmosphere with lots of people coming to visit. Obviously, we can't do that, and so you guys are going to have to do something a little bit different. And what it's going to be, actually, I might as well tell you at the outset here, is you guys are going to make a short mini documentary. It's going to be between 5 and 10 minutes, and you're going to have to present the research that you found and tell us about your claim. Almost like, for you writers out there, you're going to like this. It's basically going to be like a verbal essay where you're going to have it all prepared ahead of time. You're going to have your script, and then you're going to, you can even read it if you'd like, but you're going to basically be trying to do what I'm doing here. You're going to make a video version of it that comes across like a video documentary or a well put together vlog. Now, some of you have maybe never done anything like this before, and that's okay. That's one of the reasons why, this remote learning thing is a bit of an advantage, because it's going to force us to try some stuff that we haven't done before. I'm not going to be expecting you guys to make like professional documentaries. You don't have to have graphics. You don't have to have panning shots from drones or anything like that. But you are going to have to make sure that you organize the information you've found and present it in an organized way, just like if you were writing an essay or a research paper. So we'll get back to that, but let's look here at this one. So we're saying that our topic is going to be World War II. And that's way too big for, say, a 6-minute video. Just no way you could include stuff in there. So we have to refine it. What about World War II would I want to refine that down to? Well, one thing that I'm particularly interested in, and it kind of fits for this time of year, is the naval part of World War II, I should say. Naval combat, big ships at sea, and how much it changed during World War II. So some of the things I know about that, I could refine it further, because it's a big ocean, and it was a world war, so even just the sea battles would be too much. So maybe I need to narrow it down to one particular battle. And so thinking about all the big battles, I think maybe I'll go to the Battle of Midway, because that anniversary has actually just recently passed here. The Battle of Midway, so that would be a refined topic. So now I'm down to something that's a little bit easier to research, because if I type World War II into Google, I'm going to get like literally billions of hits, right? At least millions. I should have done it just to check. But if I type in the Battle of Midway, I'm still getting a lot, but now I've narrowed it down. And as I'm looking at the Battle of Midway, there's going to be something about that particular battle that's small enough and focused enough that I could talk about it and research it in a focused way. So, continuing down the stages here, this part here, I kind of gave you guys options of how you want to present this project. Is your video going to be entertaining, persuading, informational, argumentative, or just meant to explain? I told you it had to inform, and that hasn't changed. These other ones are going to come up, but don't worry about those too much right now. Prior knowledge, this is where you write down what you already know about the topic. And then resources like what websites, what books, what people you would maybe interview would be useful in fleshing out what you know about this topic and what you're going to look into to find out more. As I'm grading your assignment, which we'll look at the rubrics here in a minute, I'm going to be looking through all of this and seeing if you have it filled out in a thoughtful way. And if you do, you've shown me that you are thinking about your topic in terms of what you already know, and you're thinking about how you're going to learn more. Not just that you will learn more, but how you will learn more. Through different websites, different people you could talk to, and experts, and so on. What questions do you have going into it? So if I'm looking at the Battle of Midway, questions I might have are: what ships fought? Were there any famous people involved? Were there any tactics that were used that were particularly important? What were some of the outcomes of the battle that were particularly important? Was there anything unusual that led up to it? And being a history nerd, I know the answers to all of these, but we'll hold off on that for now, because you know how I love my tangents. But the point is that based on those questions, you can see that I could look into any one of those questions and I'm going to find out something really interesting. And that's going to maybe help me to refine the topic that I'm going to end up talking about here. Down to this part, you can look at this kind of on your own, so I encourage you to do so. But thinking about who you're presenting to, your video is going to obviously be viewed by me, and probably only me this time around, because I'm going to have you upload it to YouTube as an unlisted video, or somewhere else that you can send me a link so that I can watch it. But unless somebody has the link, they won't be able to watch it, and I'll show you how to do that actually here in a few minutes. Yeah, so that's going to be the way that we go about that part. So stage 2, this part here is essentially just a bit of a timeline here, as well as looking into what research you've done. Now, I will point out here, I did say that some of the sources shouldn't be internet based. I'm actually going to cut you guys a bit of slack on that one, because I know it's hard to do like library visits and stuff like that right now. So this time around it can be internet based. However, if you do know somebody that you could talk to, it might be really useful. So for instance, if I'm doing my Battle of Midway project, and after asking the question, was there anything particularly interesting that happened leading up to it, I found out that the Americans had broken the Japanese naval communication code, and they actually tricked the Japanese into attacking figuring out where the Japanese were going to attack, so that they were able to lay a trap for them. That's really interesting to me. Now, I don't think that I'm going to be able to call up the people who are fighting in that particular battle, but I could say call up my grandpa, who fought in World War II as a rear gunner on a Lancaster bomber, and I could ask him a little bit about what it was like to be in a World War II era plane. And that interview and the questions and information I got from him, I could use as part of my project, and it might be a really interesting way to introduce my project. And then I have an interview source. So you can still do that if your project gives you the option to do that. If there's people that you know you could talk to, call on the phone. You'd be surprised how many people out there would be happy to help a high schooler with their project by answering a few questions. So the timeline, well, this is this week here. Obviously, we're not in the class, so we're not going to be able to do peer presentations, but this will give you a chance to work on it. Next week, we're going to end the week with a reflecting question, where you're going to be writing about what you have done and how your project is going. And then on the 15th and 16th, of this month, so basically 2 weeks from today, you will be uploading your videos so that I can take a look at them, and then I can ask you if there's anything else that I want added or more information or anything like that. And then the 19th is our last official day of classes, and report cards get put together and all that other fun stuff. So keeping that in mind, realize that you got 2 weeks here, and might be a lot to do. A lot of you guys have already gathered a lot of info though, so I think you're in pretty good shape. Moving on here, this next page here on stage 2 gives you a bit of an example of what your research needs to look like, what I'm going to be looking for. And I'll kind of let you take a closer look at that yourself, but this is really the exemplar. If your research pages look like this, and you can see down here, I think you can kind of see where my mouse is, inquiry information gathering, that is where I'm going to be looking to decide if you have enough, if you've done enough to prepare your project. And if your page looks like this, you're getting full credit, because this is great, right? We have the source, like the book that you got the information from, or a website with the link. We have the piece of information that you're going to use and your own analysis of that information, what you think. If I look at your page and it looks like this, you're getting full marks because I can see where you found it, what you found, and why you think it's important. I can see that you're not just copy pasting something, you're telling me why you chose that particular piece of information. And that's really important. I need that insight into your way of thinking to give you a good mark on this particular part. And I'll actually just click down to it here. These pages here, inquiry information, these are blank pages. You can copy paste as many of them as you need as you're filling them out. But basically this is where I'm going to be looking on this page exactly to find out all the stuff that you found for your assignment. Stage 3, here we're kind of refining a little bit more. We wanted to make sure we chose our topic. We're keeping track because you're going to need to have a bibliography, which you can actually just put right into your OneNote here, of what sources you found and why you found them particularly useful. Stage 4, this is where we refine it down to our claim statement, right? Your claim statement has to be a statement. Now I know that sounds a little bit redundant, but sometimes if you phrase it the wrong way, it comes across as just a sentence. You aren't saying anything with that sentence. So if, for instance, I decided to do mine on the Battle of Midway, if my claim statement is the Battle of Midway included these 2 ships or something like that, that would be very boring. It doesn't say anything. It's not a good claim statement. I need to have a claim statement that is like the thesis for my essay. It sets up everything so that my viewer knows what I'm going to talk about and also what point I'm trying to make with my research here. So my claim statement might be something like, the Battle of Midway was the most important naval battle in the entire Pacific theater during World War II. Now, I've set myself up where I have to prove that, right, with the research that I've gathered. And I might even have to drill down a little bit more because even that one battle was pretty huge and would take a lot to cover. A good trick, and I tell this to all my grade 12s, because even at grade 12 some people struggle with making a statement, is to make sure that you've made a statement. What you want to do is take the line that you've just created on these 2 lines and see if you could agree with it or disagree with it. So let's look at mine again. If I say that the Battle of Midway was the most important naval action in World War II, you could look at that and you could say yes it was or no it wasn't. Either way you're logical and you can see how it sets up an argument. It sounds like somebody's pouring water on my head here. It's the nature of having my studio in the basement here. All the pipes are flowing down here. In any case, it has to be a statement, right? So that if you're not sure if the statement you have here is a statement, feel free to email it to me and ask, and I'll help you refine it. The different forms that you can take, well, obviously this time I've kind of decided for you, so I apologize for that, but it's the nature of the situation we're in. I'm going to have you guys do a vlog or a mini documentary, and the reason why is that if we end up having to deal with a second wave of this in the fall or next year, it's best that you guys start to learn how to use video editing stuff anyways, and some of you already are, and if you haven't, we still have a few weeks where you can play with some of that technology and get a handle on it. I think that's something that will really be valuable for you. It also means you're a good communicator, but the content is where most of your marks are going to come from. So even if you just, grab your phone, set it up on some books, and tell me the information you found, If you're really thorough and really organized, you're still going to get a pretty decent mark, because I'm not expecting, professional documentary out of this whole thing. I know that many of us, myself included, haven't had to make one before, and so I want to give you credit for a first try opportunity here, and it is going to be mostly about the information. With that said, I figured out how to do this with OBS and Microsoft, Adobe Premiere and all those other pieces. So if I can figure it out, I guarantee you guys can as well. And it really is just a trial and error sort of thing. So now we're on to stage 5, right? And this is where you've kind of tried things out. You've played with the stuff a little bit. You've tried to make maybe your first version of the vlog and found out you needed more information, or there was a part you needed to talk about more, or it didn't feel like it was cohesive. That's where this kind of comes in. You'll notice there isn't really anything to do on this stage, right? There's no actual, like, you got to fill this part out or that part out. It's basically just saying that you need to make sure that you've got all your research done and you've got your project focused to a topic and to a claim statement that now you can make your presentation about, so that you can actually make it. Because stage 6 here, you'll see, is assessment, and that means you're grading. So let's look at that. Below here, you're going to see a couple other pages. So for instance, this checklist here, you can certainly take a look at that, but obviously it's a little different now that we're not in class. This peer questionnaire, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that, so you can kind of disregard those two. And this oral presentation checklist, useful for looking at, maybe doing a bit of self-assessment, but you don't have to do anything with this. Where your marks are going to come from are these bottom 3 here. So for the ELA side of it, one of the things I'm going to look at is your preparing to learn. And basically, let's take a close look here. It says this rubric is how we will assess your completion. So we're going to just scroll over here if I can. Your completion of the inquiry stages above, right? Ideally, we'll have a sit-down conference. Obviously, that's not going to happen. Back on, I think, April 5th, when I made this whole thing, I was still optimistic we'd be back in class. But yeah, basically, this is me going back and looking at these stages and making sure that you filled them out in a thorough way. To get the 5s out of 5s, I'm going to want to look for a variety of strategies to look at prior knowledge. Are you going to talk to people? Are you going to do some internet reading? How are you going to find your information? Are you able to make connections between them? If I find out about a particular pilot in the Battle of Midway from one source, I'm going to show you that I also found out information that pertains to that issue from another source. This website and this website tell me about the same thing, so I know I have a better understanding of it, right? And that's going to come up in pages like this, where you're listing all of your information. Develops a thoughtful question to establish clarity and purpose for learning. This is that part about the claim statement, right? Let me just see if I can get that part back. There we go. Your claim statement. This is what you're getting graded on that. It has to be simple enough and focused enough to where your project is going to be focused. Now, you know that yours has to be something to do with Canada, current events, situations in the modern world, or something historic that connects to Canada. So maybe, a battle that we've fought in, or an issue that's happening in the world that you've decided to research and find out more about. Your claim statement has to basically say something about that topic. It can't just be that topic, right? And finally, able to use and adjust your plan to access and appraise diverse information and ideas. So basically, I want to see that as you're learning more about the topic, you're refining your views of it and helping, and your explanation of it becomes more complex as well. Next up is the ELA rubric for research, right? So this one is pretty self-explanatory. If you have lots of sources, you're going to do well. If you have covered the issue pretty thoroughly, you're going to do well. If your information is organized on that page, it's going to do well. If you've paraphrased it in that third column, you're going to do well. And you've thoroughly looked into it, you're going to do well. Boom, done and done. That's your ELA side of it. At least most of it. And finally, this rubric here is almost all going to be the same, except for we're taking out audience, because unfortunately I can't see you viewing other people's videos, and so I can't give you a mark for that. So instead of being out of 50 points, it's going to be out of 45. 25 points for your ideas. So this is the information you include in your video. 5 points for how organized it's going to be, 5 points for the language you use, 5 points for your grammar, and 5 points for the presentation itself. And this is going back to that part I talked about, the video. If you have great information, it's well organized, you have a specific beginning, middle, and end, an intro, body, and conclusion, just like you guys learned last year, I'm sure, and we talked about as part of your responses this year. If your language is scholarly, which means that you're using language that fits for a presentation, right? That you're talking to people as a presenter. If your grammar, which is any words and the structures of your sentences in your presentation, that would fit in that. If all those are good and your video is just literally you talking into your phone, you're still going to get 1 or 2 points in that category. So again, you don't have to go overboard in making this incredible, beautiful documentary, because it is only about 5 points out of your 45, but that's still more than 10% of your grade. So it's worth trying to do a good job on if you can. Let's take a quick look here, just coming back to the ideas portion. For the 5 out of 5, which is, again, 25 out of 25, because these are all different social studies outcomes we're looking for here. Your ideas are original and developed and reflect attitudes and ideas celebrated in our social studies course. So things like rule of law, or something like how the government works, or how moments in history help us to figure out who we are. Those sorts of things that we've talked about all year. You demonstrate exceptional skill in focusing the topic, right? So you've narrowed it down to a very specific claim statement that you can focus your entire project around. Your details and supporting material are diverse, and they show different viewpoints and different forms that you've looked into. Supporting evidence is perceptive, creative, and or thoughtful, and relates to the important topics in Canada's past, present, or future. So again, you can talk about things that have happened, things that are happening right now, or you can do research into something that Canada is going to do that you're excited about. If you give me lots of information from lots of different sources, and you have an introductory part of your video where you tell me about your project and tell me what you've learned as a result of it, and then state your claim statement, and then in the middle of your piece you give me that information and you help me as your viewer and other viewers of your project to understand it, and then you have the ending part where you wrap it all up again and then finish off with what that claim statement means to you and to other Canadians, you're good. That's good organization. If you do it in a professional way and you sound like you're talking as a presenter, you're going to do well on the language portion. And then grammar, this one will be a little harder for me to mark because I won't actually see your page. However, if your sentences are well constructed and you are not making too many mistakes as a speaker, then you should be fine on that topic. You can also post your script on your OneNote somewhere on a new page maybe, so that I can take a look at it, especially if you feel you've done a pretty darn good job. And then the presentation part of it, here it's listed as your posture, eye contact, and pacing. Those will apply, right? You want to try to be looking into your camera as often as possible. You want to try and make sure that you are speaking fast enough to where your video doesn't go on for 22 minutes, which I can see where I am now. Don't worry, I'm almost done. But not so fast that you're rushing through things. You got to take your time. Looking at my videos here, I usually put like an ambient soundtrack in the background just to add a little bit of a mood to it. I've got my own background, which you can kind of see, around this. It's all just meant to make the viewing experience a little bit easier for people who have to watch these videos, which are you guys. So what can you do to make that more effective? What can you do to make your vlog or your documentary more pleasing to your viewer? Think about options that you have there. Windows Movie Maker or iMovie or any of those programs are pretty easy to use, and there are tons of tutorials about them on YouTube if you want to go take a look on how to actually use those. It's what I did when I made stuff for this channel. So you guys can figure it all out, and I know that because I can, and you guys are way better with technology stuff than I am. And if you're struggling with it, again, don't stress. You can literally just talk into the camera and then upload it. So how does that actually work? Well, sorry about the dog barking here. I will actually show you because I think that that's helpful. So you're going to have to set up a YouTube channel first of all, like I've done. Let me just put that up there for you. Good stuff. Nice. So this is my YouTube channel here, and you do it just with a Gmail piece there. Let me just pause that. You don't have to do like the logo and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, you just need somewhere to post your stuff, right? So when you're on your YouTube page, you just go up to this top part here where it says create a video or post, and you click it, and then upload a video. And then all you do is literally, let me just bring it up here. Sorry, should have had that ahead of time. So this is the video we're recording right now, and all I would have to do is drag that and then drop it onto that page, and then it'll follow the steps. One of the things it's going to ask you to do is list it as either a public video, an unlisted, or a private. You guys should put it as unlisted, and then that way the only person who can see your video is you, and anyone who has the link to the video. So all you got to do then is copy the link and then send it to me. Actually, don't even do that, just post it right on this page, actually, the Social Studies rubric. Post the link right on the side there, and that way I will be able to click on that, go to your video, and see what you have done for your project. So yeah, I think that this probably makes sense. It's pretty straightforward. Again, if I figured it out, I think that you guys probably can too. And if you're having trouble, don't hesitate to ask, because that's why we still have 2.5 weeks to finish this all off. But yeah, next week, this week you're finishing off that last couple assignments I sent out a bit earlier. Then you're starting to work through the last couple stages of this and planning out what your video is going to look like and generating your script. Next week, I would say make the video, try it a couple times, do a little bit of video editing, add maybe a title screen to it, add some transitions, maybe find some music that fits with it. And that will give you the ability to make sure that you can score well on that presentation part of it. And then at the end of next week, you'll answer that reflecting question. At the start of the week after that, I'll view them and then let you know what I think and if there's anything I want you to change. And then you guys are done. Crazy. I know. Madness. Anyways, I hope that this all makes sense. And if not, then send me an email and good luck. I'm excited to see what you guys come up with. A lot of you guys have some really cool topics. Have a good one, guys.